You're watching Drake Queen Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drake Queen Gaming. It's something on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you with another Let's Play episode of No More Future. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you are up and let's go. Very few people indeed, and even if there are any such people in the world, you'd be hard-pressed to find any among them who actually care. I would... What? Are you insane? Why would anybody not care upon finding out that a single company like Pandora owns every facet of their lives? It's actually rather startling how quickly you began accepting everything that comes out of Jasper's lips as fact. Though, if you had to guess, it's probably even more startling that you never figured any of this out before today. Your doubts have only increased since the dragon first pointed out how Mary never told you about any of this. What in the world is she even doing? Is this yet another one of her attempts at shielding you from the truths you have no reason to learn? Or did she, too, assume you were already aware of this nightmare you've apparently been living in your whole life? Whatever the case, it appears as though the dragon is hardly finished with his explanation. To put it simply, most people wouldn't care about Pandora being as dominant as it is for the same reasons that allowed us to reach this position to begin with. Namely, because we're convenient. Convenient? Instead of answering, Jasper motions at the plate before you, which you still haven't touched since it was first brought to your table. You should finish that meal now, before our host starts thinking that you don't like the food. It's not very polite to leave scraps behind either way. Not very polite? Either this is the CEO's way of trying to exert power over you, or he genuinely can't tell how invested, how unsettled you are by your conversation. As angry as you feel at his attempt at derailing you, you try your best to hide it behind a veil of insecurity. It'll probably be better received by the drake than outright hostility. I don't think I'm hungry anymore. Perhaps, but for the sake of not causing a scene, I suggest you dispose of that food nonetheless. That, and lower your voice to acceptable levels. The foul look from the drake is more than enough for your fake fear to quickly turn real. You honestly hadn't realized you'd begun shouting in the midst of your rant just now. You began to pick apart your plate of whatever this is little by little, astounded by the drake's inhuman composure. His ability to recount things so tidily, in spite of how nightmarish they sound, is quite horrifying indeed. You're slowly losing your mind hearing him speak, yet his serious gaze remains the same as ever. It's actually almost frightening as his explanation itself. Nonetheless, food still tastes like nothing. Oh, for the love of... It tastes perfectly fine, I assure you. This is fine dining of the highest caliber, and all the guests of this establishment agree to this fact. If you can't handle the food you're eating, the most likely explanation is that there's something wrong with your taste buds. It sounds kind of like gaslighting, not gonna lie. Jasper raises an eyebrow in disbelief at your witty remark, half spoken in jest. You're not sure whether it's because he thinks you said something very smart or very stupid. As funny as it is to see him in this state, you decide to nudge him forward, eager to see what more the dragon wishes to share with you. So, convenience. Care to explain what you mean by that one of these days? Well, it's a little bit of everything, really. Lots of small things that add up in their whole. Like how you can watch every show you can think of on a video screen through a single account of Netflix. I'm sure that's far more manageable than making dozens of accounts on different service providers, correct? Or how you can have goods from all over the world delivered right by your doorstep within a matter of hours instead of having to wait weeks or months. And of course I don't need to mention things like smartphones or the internet even existing, do I? That's like way too many things at once. Is he set another of your we do everything non-arguments? Oh, please. Those were only 3 examples. I can make 1,000 more. My point is, most people enjoy when things are easy, approachable, comfortable. And our job is to provide all these things, and so much more. We give our customers all over the world exactly what they want, when and where they want it, and we don't give them reasons to stress about the details. That's why we became as influential as we did. That's why nobody minds that in the slightest. So he says, and yet you find yourself minding an awful lot. Everything that comes out of his lips sounds like pure madness, and yet he speaks with the same tone of a teacher going through an average lesson at school. It's rather freaky, actually. Nonetheless, the more this goes on, the more things start to make sense. If Pandora truly does own everything, it would explain how Mary and Jasper could wreak havoc on your apartment complex the other day as nonchalantly as they did. Selene Inc. is nothing more than another front for their activities. Of course, being as rich and powerful as he claims would easily allow them to rack up the funding for the synthetic project now, and the Kronos project way back when. Even the FBI's interest in their affairs becomes a lot more understandable with all this new information. You're not sure whether to feel intrigued or repelled by the Drake's words, as if this as of this moment, but with all the evidence that surrounds you, you'd be hard-pressed not to believe them nonetheless. I guess it's just kind of hard to wrap my head around everything you've said. It's not every day that you find out, well, all this. Indeed, frankly, I thought you'd have far less trouble internalizing all this than you actually did. But again, I did also wrongly assume that you've already been made aware of most of it. Nonetheless, you can rest assured that Pandora is every bit as influential as I claimed it is. We even used to be the world government up until not that long ago. You were? That's not all that hard to believe, considering everything you've heard so far. Don't act so surprised. I'm sure you've already wondered how come we were allowed to reach this level of influence to begin with by now. Well, that is true. I was meaning to inquire about that at some point. After all, shouldn't there be antitrust laws protecting against this kind of power consolidation? Even if there weren't, you're pretty sure no government would have ever allowed them to become more powerful than them to begin with. Assuming Jasper doesn't tell you that the government's never existed or some other dystopian nonsense along those lines. There were many such laws in the past, that is true. However, like all laws, they mattered only to the extent that they were enforced. And we gave the authorities plenty of reasons not to enforce them. You mean, they were on your payroll? Correct. The people voted politicians into office to do their interests, and we paid them to do ours instead. To a certain extent, we still do. Don't get me wrong, there were some attempts at getting us out of the picture. In 2077, some congressmen brought forth a bill that included a strict $1 trillion roof on the share capital of every holding operating in the country. It would have effectively killed our business in the country, seeing as though our shares at the time were about 300 times that. 300 times? You really ought to stop sounding so surprised when you say stuff like that. I assume you're going to say that the draft was never made into law. That it didn't. It failed to make it to the Senate, where 56% of the members voted against it. You had that many people on your side? That's crazy! Of course not. That would have been unimaginable. It would have been unmanageable, even by our standards. We had 97% of the Senate on our side, and about the same number of people in the House as well. Pandora never leaves anything up to chance. We just made that fact a little less obvious this way. Not so much for the democratic process still being anything like what you were taught in school. This is beginning to sound more and more like one of those dystopian books you studied in English class by the minute. Give me a break. Next time you'll tell me you won the media, too. The Drake raises an eyebrow at your exclamation, wondering if you're serious about that. Oh, for the love of... Did Dr. Shelley never teach you to think before saying such foolish things out loud? First off, rude. And secondly, why would I jump to the conclusion that... Nope, wait a minute. Now that I think about it, it doesn't add up. Pandora owns all the media. There's no way people would have just such a jagged outlook on me even existing. Every positive coverage of Pandora, there's synthetics up the wazoo. And yet, that's hardly the case. Half the world is still against you for reasons you can only half understand. It doesn't sound like something they'd allow, given all the power they supposedly possess, if they could avoid it. Alright, fair. I guess it would make sense if you were the ones to manage the news. I suppose this means someone else does. Ah, and here I thought I need to explain this to you as well. Lucky me. But yes, it is as you said. We may be in charge of more things than I can count, but the news is one of the few we don't. As annoying as it is to admit, Mr. Aljon and Mrs. Lightning aren't the only hard-headed people in the world. Another company way back when, Prometheus, also refused to work with us in any capacity. They saw what we were doing and decided they wanted a taste of the pie as well. They began amassing power in the media sector, pulling together news stations, internet companies, social networks, all under their banner. So they became you, only a lot smaller. An interesting way to put it, but yes, it is as you say. Their duties consist summarily in keeping their customers alert as to what's going on all over the world, as well as to provide them the means to react, discuss, and even influence these events sometimes. To that end, they curate the experience of all their customers in order to ensure maximum engagement, in order to give everybody exactly what they want. I'm not sure I follow. What does it have to do with the way people still look at me? Why is everyone still convinced that I'm going to turn out to be the next Kronos? Jesper's eyes roll to the ceiling at your comment, evidently unamused. Well, you being the best candidate for the role certainly doesn't help. Yeah, right, and the objective answer is... A little snarky coming from you, but the Drake's practically asking for it at this point. The least he could do after bombarding you with all this unwanted information is to answer your question, especially considering it's not even that far off from the current topic either. You honestly don't get it. The role isn't just to report the truth, it's just to sell it to different people, all of which are looking for a unique spin on it. Regarding synthetic technology, for example, they sell pro-synthetic media to those who are pro-synthetic and peddle the rest to those who aren't. They don't force anyone to watch it, mind you, much like how they don't force anyone to watch the news to begin with. But much the same as they do with us, their customers simply don't care. They naturally gravitate towards content they agree with and shy away from everything else. That's why so many people are convinced you'll turn up the same as Kronos, because they never needed any convincing in the first place, only reinforcing. That's messed up! How am I supposed to change these people's minds in these conditions? See, that's the interesting part. You can't, and you won't. Whether the media's machine ever starts spinning in your favor relies entirely on whether they can profit from it or not. It has nothing to do with anything either you or us can or will do. Well, that's just great. And you honestly can't do anything about it. Hardly. Like I said, Prometheus is its own company, and they need our infrastructure to operate as much as we need them to not go overboard with our reporting. This means they won't go to war with us by deliberately sicking the populace against us, but it also means we can't force them to spread alternative facts one way or another. You mean propaganda? Isn't that what you're asking me for? The Drake's words sting you more than you thought they would. You truly hadn't realized just what you were asking for until he stated it out loud. Of course you never wanted to use propaganda to convince everyone that you're still alive. No sane person ever would. The fact that this conversation led you to believe that might even be possible, even if it isn't, is extremely concerning. Dear Diary, today I learned the whole world is owned by two massive megacorporations. Sounds like a great opener, don't you think? Jasper scoffs at your joke, evidently unamused with your cynicism. I don't see why you'd sound so glum when saying that. It's truly nowhere near as bad as you think it is. Nowhere near as... Are you kidding me? You just confessed that the free market is a myth. That our government is a farce, that me and everybody else out there has been living a lie their entire life. Do you have any idea how messed up everything you just said truly sounds? I do. And? The dragon's response is so curt and to the point. It's almost like a sucker punch to the gut. The way I see it, the world's working just as intended. Nobody's unemployed against their will. Nobody's waging wars over resources or other petty reasons. Nobody has any reason to go out into the streets and protest. Everybody's perfectly content with the way things are. So content, in fact, that they don't even bother trying to learn more about how this all became possible to begin with. Not even you. The dragon's ruthless comments force you retreating to yourself once again, much like Bradbury's did just yesterday. It almost feels like being accused of committing a heinous crime. The crime you didn't even know you had committed until just now. And judging by the regret you're feeling, you're probably guilty of it too. You can make as many comments on the system as you wish. The fact of the matter is that it works, and that's all I'm concerned with. We provide food for the starving, electricity for the needy, medical care for the ill, and so much more. Thanks to us, nobody in the world is ever faced with a problem they cannot solve, a need they cannot fulfill. And though we ask for compensation for our services, and both labor and currency, our prices are fair and our quality is excellent. Nobody's ever complained, nobody ever noticed, because there are no faults to complain about and no problems to notice. This is what we do. This is what people want. Deal with it. Silence. The sound of the wind outside the windows is all you can hear. That, your own thoughts, plaguing your mind like a disease, spurred on by the dragon's words. But soon enough, yet another voice adds itself to the endless chorus. You know, he has a point. The familiar voice comes from a nearby table, one you haven't looked at in quite a while. It's low and serious, and it crawls up your spine much the same as a serpent slithers amidst the grass. When you turn to look in its direction, you find a smirking St. Bernard calmly sitting at that table, like a normal customer waiting to be served, even though it's completely barren. His gaze is transfixed upon the two of you, almost as if delighting in the surprise and confusion that his sudden arrival has caused. What are you doing here? And when did he even get here, for that matter? You definitely didn't hear him walk in, that's for sure. Alright, y'all, I'm actually going to pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!